Here are the 6 premises of conservatism. Men are born into families, tribes, and nations to which they are bound by ties of mutual loyalty. There's a big word, mutual loyalty, because this is not a collective. Like I like to say that conservatism is not a collectivist idea. Because some people like to say that conservatism is just progressivism doing the speed limit. No, it's not. It's a completely different philosophy. It's a completely different idea. Progressives think you as the individual must do what's best for the collective, period. If I'm a black man, it don't matter if I'm wealthy, if I'm doing well off, if I got a family of mixed kids, it don't matter. I have to do what's in the best interest of the collective, even if it's at the cost to my family. That's what the progressives believe. Oh, you a black man. We're supposed to stand together. That's what progressives will say. But as a conservative, I understand that people have mutual loyalty to who? Their family, then their community, then their nation. And as a conservative, and this is what makes a lot of people conservative, you have a mutual interest in your society, in your country. And this is the problem with liberals, and this is how liberals lost the plot, and this is how the liberals lost the culture to progressives and the socialists and these extremist people, is because they call out the weakness of liberalism. And liberalism only care about what? The individual. Liberalism does not acknowledge the reality that you're not born by yourself. You're born within a group. And progressives, this is how progressives come over here and beat liberals over the head, and how progressives have taken over the Democratic Party. This is why I said liberals are not good at defending their ideas, because the liberals say, oh, I believe in absolute free speech. Then a progressive will come, okay, if a racist come out and said that black people are inferior to white people, should we protect their speech? Liberals will, because liberals are stuck, because liberals have this, like I said, savior complex. Liberals have this need to feel morally superior to other people. So a liberal will say, well, it depends. Oh, we should have his rights to say it. And then the progressive will say, okay, we need to give him consequences. Oh, okay, that's fine. I'm fine with that, as long as you don't censor his speech. And then you get into this downward spiral, and next thing you know, liberals are calling for censorship on ideas they don't like, because liberals fold to progressives, and conservatives can attack the same critique as well. You have an obligation to your country. You have an obligation to your community that helped raise you and to become the person you are, because you wouldn't become the individual without being without being raised by your family, without being raised by your community. And in a sense, there's a mutual interest to better your community, because if your community is better, it gives you, the individual, more opportunities in life. And this is the conservative ideal. Sorry. So that's premise 1. I know I kind of went on a little rant there, but this is interesting. I'm trying to articulate what are the premises of conservatism, because that's a question I get a lot on my comment section sometimes, especially people who don't agree with me. They go, oh, what is conservatism anyway? If I don't know what conservatism is, what conservatism is to you, Kenny? Well, this is the video for you. Okay, here's the second premise. Individuals, families, tribes, and nations compete for honor, importance, and influence until a threat or a common endeavor recalls them to mutual loyalties that bind them to one another. So for pretty much the whole concept is competition is important, because competition is a functional benefit to a community. Progressives don't like competition, because competition breeds inequity. And from a conservative point of view, inequity is not necessarily evil. It's a certain kind of inequity that is evil. We believe everyone should have a shot, equal opportunity. We don't not believe in equal outcome. And this is where the competition point comes in, because if we compete amongst each other, for instance, here's an example of this is how I'm playing out this is how I'm playing out the idea. If you have one team of basketball players, two teams of basketball players, both teams have same level of skill, size, age, whatever. One team, let's call it conservative team, they compete amongst each other for the job. So everyone competes to be starters. While in the progressive team, they all get a shot at being a starter regardless of how they do in practice. Who's going to usually be the better team? The conservative team, because each person that starts for that team was the best player, and they had to prove that they were the best player. Demonstrable evidence. Imperialism. They had to demonstrate that they were the best player. And the only way you can demonstrate if you're the best for the job is to compete. While in the progressive realm, they think, We're gonna put this woman here. We're gonna put this short person here. We're gonna put this gay person here. It don't matter if they're actually the best person. It just matters about, hey, it doesn't. This is rationalism. It shouldn't matter who starts, because end of the day, as a team, we'll win. Diversity is our strength, and then they get blown out by the conservative team because the conservative team didn't play that. They played by meritocracy because it rises the quality, because everyone gets better. Name the first time you got better by yourself. You don't. When you work out with somebody, when you work out with another individual and you compete, it rises your level of skill as well, because you're competing against somebody. You're getting feedback. Failure gives feedback. Mistakes give feedback. And competition allows you to correct it or expose those mistakes or those shortcomings, and gives you an opportunity, like we mentioned in the psychology video here, how to become wise. You experience pain. You experience that pain of, oh damn, I lost my spot to this other person. And you have an opportunity to respond. How are you going to respond to that pain? Are you going to use that pain to get better? Or are you going to use that pain to shy away and get worse? And this is essentially what conservatism utilizes competition for. It utilizes competition to better the group. And then when the group has to come together, aka play against another team, they're better for it. So this is the conservative view on competition, I guess. Here's premise 3 for conservatism. Families, tribes, and nations are hierarchically structured. Their members have importance and influence to the degree they are honored within the hierarchy. It's the same. It's pretty much an extension of premise 3 with the basketball example. Oh, he's the starting point guard. That comes accolades with that. That comes a certain assumption, honor, influence with that. Oh, he's a starter because he's the best for the job. He's the best person for that position. So he's going to get the contracts. He's going to get the playing time, right? He's going to get the most money if it was the NBA. Because of what? Because he produced more. He's more valuable. He contributes more to the team, so therefore he gets paid more in the team. But if you go on the progressive team, that's not how it works. Everyone gets equal playing time. Everyone gets equal pay, regardless of your position. It don't matter if LeBron James scored 30 points. He's still getting paid the same as the guy sitting on the bench, never getting into the game. Incentives. But I digress. Let's get into it. Number 4, language, religion, law, and the forms of government and economic activity are traditional institutions developed by families, tribes, and nations as they seek to strengthen their material prosperity, internal integrity, and cultural inheritance, and to propagate themselves throughout future generations. This is why there's a big a push in conservatism to have children, to have the family, because we recognize that the individual is essentially the core of a family, and families are the core of a community, and a community is the core of a nation, and this is how you get America. So that means if there's any flawed or bad piece along that hierarchy, it'll go bottom up and ruin the country, and that's what's going on right now. This is why I say marriage is not the foundation of society. Culture is. Because if you have a culture that's pushing individuals to be the best that they can be, compete, be the best individual for the job, American excellence, that's a culture. If you have an individual that's upholding to American excellence, then that individual, it bubbles up out of society. Let's say I find another person, my wife, and she believes in American excellence. Then we have kids and we raise them in the culture of American excellence, and they go out and they have kids. It bubbles up, and eventually that's how the country becomes exceptional. But then if you put in a culture where, oh, you shouldn't compete that hard. Oh, 4-hour work weeks. Oh, be as lazy as possible. Oh, no, let the government take care of you. Oh, no, don't work too hard. You're going to suffer burnout. If you have a culture like that, what's going to happen? It's going to degrade the quality of the people that are functioning in your society. Look at America. All you have to do is look at America. Look at America, how Americans were in the 1960s during John F. Kennedy. Look at boys, especially men in high school. Look how they look and look how we look now. We got an obesity problem in America now. Why? Because we have a culture that's slothful, decadent, weak. There's a reason why there's this phrase that hard men create good times. It's strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. There's a reason that saying exists. And it's a culture. This is why we have kids. Hey, we want to influence the future generation of children. This is why liberals have less kids than conservatives. Conservatives have what? For every one liberal that has kids, conservatives have 1.55 more kids than the liberal. So we're gonna outpopulate them soon, and we're trying to tell them, hey, stop aborting your kids. Hey, stop doing this. We're gonna have childless marriages. Why are you doing that? Like, what's the purpose of marriage? Just be single. We calling out saying, hey, look, you're literally killing your ideology because you're not gonna influence my kids. And when conservatives push back against the parental rights and education bill, when conservative parents push back against the values that a public school or government schools are trying to teach their children, they want to get mad when conservative parents in 20 years, 30 years are going to be the majority of parents in this country. That's culture. That's the value of culture. And that's what conservatism thinks about. You do things in the prosperity, the material prosperity of your people, of your family, right? You do what's best for them. And this is kind of the things that I use internally to judge Black progress. Are Black people doing anything that propagates the next generation into a better position? No, they're not. Not since the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Movement was the last time that the previous generation of Black people set up the future generation of Black people for better opportunities than they got. That's the last time that happened. All the current other previous generations of Black, they merely use the circumstances of their race to benefit themselves and their family at the expense of other Black people and set the Black people up for even worse conditions. Single motherhood was less than almost 80% married in the 1930s. And then you saw after the 1960s, once the war on the Great Society Act passed by Lyndon B. Johnson, you saw that the single motherhood rate jumped from 25% to 55%, 65%, and now it's at damn near 72% now. And I told you all the negative setbacks for having a culture that produce a bunch of single mothers. Higher rates of crime, higher rates of poverty, less access to education because it's tied to poverty, right? And then when people say, oh, it's poverty is the reason why Black people are committing so much crimes. No, single motherhood has incentivized that behavior because there's no stewardship over the kids. If the parent's not there, your values are not going to be transmitted to the kids. Someone else is going to transmit values to your kids, and that's usually public school. That's why I think public school is such a racket. That's why public school is some of the worst institutions to put Black kids in. In a conservative culture, if Black community was conservative, there will be a culture inside the community saying, hey, putting our kids into public school is the worst possible choice to ever do. Let's homeschool our kids. Hey, we're going to make sacrifices so that way the next generation is better off compared to where we were at, because we have to learn from this mistake and not pass this mistake on to the next future. That's a conservative ideal. This is how conservatism helped the Black community or any community. All you have to do is replace Black with whatever ethnicity you are, Spanish, Asian. Every community has their own little problems that they themselves have to deal with. So here's the last two that I'm not going to go into a rant here. But political obligation is a consequence of membership in family, tribes, and nation. So how conservatives see, this is why conservatism is usually based in some religious community or patriotism, is that it's a mutual benefit. Hey, if I'm a member of a club, I have certain obligations to that club to make it better. I gain a benefit for being part of this club, and the club gets a benefit of having me on it. That's how conservatives kind of see the relationship between America and the individual. And this is why conservatives tend to get mad about, oh, we need to balance the budget. Yo, we're $33 trillion in debt, is because we're seeing that, we're destroying our country, and the next generation is going to have to deal with the problems that we created, and we ain't going to be around to fix it. Or we ain't going to be around to get punished by those bad policies. Conservatives tend to think about the future because they have kids, and liberals don't have kids. So liberals are less inclined to think about the future. And that's what kind of destroyed the Black community. The Black community didn't care about what actions they're doing at that moment that would affect the future generations of Black people. They just cared about, no, I gain a benefit from it now. If I get reparations now, who cares if my great grandkids have to suffer through record high inflation? We got to benefit from our reparations check. And that kind of mindset destroys your community. Right? You're caring about you're caring about yourself at the expense of your community. And if the community cares about itself at the expense of the individual, they're both wrong in my eyes. And that's how I see reparations. But I digress. These premises are derived from experience and may be challenged and improved upon in light of experience. So this is where liberalism is needed for conservatism. Conservatism admit that, hey, I only know these things because I test them in reality and I got a certain result, and that's what I'm following. But if you come to a different conclusion, we got this new spanking idea, conservatives will test it. And if they say, oh yeah, that is a better idea, liberal, we'll adopt it. And now we will preserve that idea. That's essentially how liberalism and conservatism worked hand in hand with each other. Conservatives will test these fringe ideas that the liberal have. And if the liberal happen to strike twice, right? Like, a broken clock is right twice. If a liberal happens to be right about an issue, the conservatives will adopt it. And now the conservatives' job is to preserve that idea. But that's not what's happening now. And it's insane. But let's continue with the book. And then I'm almost done. And then we'll get into some videos about the black community and stuff. These conservative paradigms are by now less familiar than those of liberalism, but they are not entirely unfamiliar. Many of us learned something like this from like this view of political world from our parents and grandparents, or from the Bible and other religious communities to which we belong to. Other encounter similar views while taking part in electoral politics or government, where our mentors were often more realistic about political life than our teachers in school and university. And this is a big problem. In our current political discussion, academia has a lot of influence over political policy. Modern monetary theory, anyone? These ideas are not tested. In academia, they're protected from empirical evidence. They never show any use case or any practical use for their ideas. They just think, oh, we should try it this way. And everyone's like, oh, that's not like a good idea. Let's just go for it. No. And is this this acceptance to try out unproven theories without a result has got us into this pathway now today. But I digress. Let's continue with the book. And there's certainly academic disciplines that discuss elements within this framework as well. Yet this conservative political framework is rarely recognized for what it plainly is, an alternative way of thinking about political life, which is the case. The conservative paradigm regards political order as hierarchical in nature, consisting of multiple levels and individuals born into a family, which combines with other families to form a clan. Today, that would be a community or a congregation. Clans combine to form a tribe, and within the alliances of tribe, that together constitutes a nation. And that's what's going on in our multi-ethnic republic. We got bunch of different groups, different tribes. We got white tribes, we got the Asian tribes, we got the Hispanic tribes, we got the black tribes. And we all constitute a nation, like it or not. So when the Democrats come out here and they try to, here's some benefits specifically for black people, you're causing division in the country by creating specific policies for one specific group of people. While conservatives, and this is how conservatives think, what's going to be best for all these tribes. And here's the opportunity. If you tribes want to take part of the opportunity, you're all welcome to try, but this is the standard to take advantage of this opportunity. Hey, we're giving an incentive for you to start businesses. Black people will be like, oh, these Republicans never make policies for us. What are you talking about? If you start a business, you can take advantage of this. No, they want the conservatives and the Republicans to act just like the Democrats. Oh, here's something we handcrafted for you. And then in a realistic world, the Asians, the whites, and the Hispanic tribes will look at that and be like, they shouldn't be getting special treatment. And they'll war against that tribe for trying to sway things specifically for their favor. But that's not what's happening because of the culture. Now you got intersectionality and all this other nonsense. But, I feel like